What's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the FCS Dynasty here on NCAA 06, featuring that next mod as well, as we got a great episode on tap. Not only 8 games to start the FCS season, but some big time debuts, so you're not going to want to miss a single thing here. Make sure you hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. We will jump right into the action here. We start with Brown playing up against the defending national champs, and Brown is going to actually strike first. It is going to be Kevin James, the custom recruit, who's going to take it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown, Brown. And all of a sudden, the two-time Ivy League champions, they are going to strike first in this game. And the sophomore does strike first. So a 7-0 lead early. And Brown looks to get off to a strong start here as Josh is going to go throw to the right-hand side. He throws another dot over there on the perimeter. And early on, even though New Hampshire, they have all of these starters back from their national championship team, they're looking a little bit vulnerable early on. We'll see if they can tighten things up as they are at a 4th down. Dropping back and a look to the right hand side, and it's going to be caught. Touchdown, Brown again. And all of a sudden, a 14-0 lead as they are trying to put the number 2 team in the land, New Hampshire, on upset notice. And it's going to come down to Bruno Baggio, who's making his collegiate debut, but it's not going to be how it's going to turn out. The former number 1 quarterback in high school football making this start as a true freshman. Has the pocket presence, but, his guy just does not win on the outside, unfortunately. And Brown is able to turn around and turn that into a field goal. Matter of fact, they will have to go ahead and try to get a little bit tricky here. They do get Bruno Baggio his first reception of his collegiate career. I'm just surprised if you're going to run something like that. You got Jason Dubois on the bench, a fellow to Crustrum, who is very capable of, taking it to the crib. Speaking of taking it to the crib, how about Zach Howell, a true sophomore? He can do some things as well. And for the first time this season, New Hampshire is going to get themselves on the board for the very first time this season. They will cut it down to a 10-point game. Now, later on in the second quarter, though, we will see Baggio roll to his left, but he is going to take a shot. He will end up taking a sack there. So it's going to be a pivotal 3rd and long as New Hampshire tries to work themselves back into this game. Baggio's got a clean pocket to work with. He wants to go for it all there. He gets launched, and it's going to be caught. The first career touchdown pass for Bruno Baggio. And that's what made him so exciting coming out of high school. Just look at this deep ball right there. Just dropping that right in the bucket. And that will make it just a 3-point game all of a sudden, as the New Hampshire Wildcats tried to rally back in this game early. They got their best punch. And now it seems like New Hampshire, who, by the way, is going to capitalize off of the muffed punt. They're going to score off of that. And New Hampshire now has the lead and really starting to go ahead and establish themselves in this football game. Zach Howell in particular, he's going to be on a whole nother level right now. He's going to take this handoff, going to follow his blockers up the field. Nice spin move to get away from a couple of would-be tacklers. And New Hampshire starts to pull away. After that 17-0 lead for Brown, all of a sudden, we're looking at 31 unanswered points. How about let's make it 38 unanswered points as of right now. That is Tavita Bean, the All-American. He is going to pick up this fumble here, saws the ball on the ground, picks it up, and he's going to take it all the way back to the crib. And now it's a 38-17 game. Not looking good for the Brown Bears, and it looks like it just might get a little bit worse. Brian Hall, he's going to get his second interception of his collegiate career. His first one, ironically, coming in the national championship game last year. So 2 interceptions in the last couple of games that New Hampshire has played. And, you know, we put Bruno Baggio on the thumbnail, but it's a different kind of show here. Zach Howe, he's going to make his presence felt. It's going to take the halfback draw, follows his blockers, hits that little cutback cheese, and he's just extremely hard to take down, man. An extremely exciting running back to watch, even though they don't run the football very often. It's a very, crazy thing to think about, but it's quickly turning into a slaughter. 45-17 is going to be your score, and that is for we talk about Otis Grip. He's going to take it downfield. He had 7 touchdowns in the return game last year. He will now get his 8th career touchdown of the season, of his career, his young collegiate career. And all of a sudden, New Hampshire, they got that 50 burger. Remember when we got that upset alert going? I remember that as well. Although it doesn't seem like New Hampshire is going to have to really worry about that anytime soon, as that is also going to be intercepted and picked off here as the Wildcats defense continues to be relentless. And we'll see if we're going to see Zach Howe with his 4th touchdown of the game. We actually do. So that does make it a 40 burger in terms of points, and New Hampshire is going to end up running away with this game, winning 66-24. That does end up being your final score. So we go ahead and see a top 25 matchup for the first time this season. This is not the only notable debut that we are going to see here in this episode. Justin Jones, who was also a number 1 prospect back in this year 1 offseason, he is now going to make his first collegiate start at the quarterback position. He has spent some time at wide receiver while he was sitting behind Mike Hill. But now Mike Hill has graduated. He is no longer at Southern. So now we're going to take a look at Justin Jones, who at this point is now a junior, taking his first steps at quarterback down. They run the option with him, and you could see why he was so coveted back in high school. Justin Jones, he's able to make some guys miss early on. And that's a really good run there on the option, faking somebody out, making a couple of guys miss there as well. And you love to see that kind of work as a dual threat quarterback. And speaking of dual threats, how about Justin Jones laying it on a dime there? That's going to go into the end zone. Touchdown, Southern. And the Southern Jaguars in their very first possession at the helm for Justin Jones in this offense. It's going to turn that into a touchdown. Matter of fact, this Southern Jaguars squad, they're going to get off to, looks like a pretty hot start here, as they will put up 14 points quickly. Make that 14-0 against, keep in mind, a team that was very close to making it to the national championship last year. So we'll see how Rice responds. Robert Johnson, he's no longer here as well. He did graduate. So Warden Mason, he's taking over for the Rice Owls. He's going to run it all the way down inside that 20-yard line. Incredible run there on that triple option, which they employ pretty well here at Rice. They're going to need a lot of those big runs for sure if they're going to want to keep up with this Southern team. And we'll see if Rice can punch it into the end zone, trying to go with the fullback dive, but it's going to be knocked away. He will not be getting to the end zone this time. And it leads to a 3rd and goal. Trying to go with the option, but we got a football on the ground. It is going to be picked up, and it's going to be recovered by the Southern defense. How about that for a major stand? You absolutely love to see it. As we get into the closing moments of this first half, Justin Jones looking to attack deep once again. He's going to throw it right in the bucket. And how about Justin Jones having himself a day, already with nearly 200 yards of total offense here in this first half. And it looks like it is going to be wrapped up with a touchdown on the ground as well, as Southern simply dominating in this game. You know, Southern, they came in ranked number 10, and I'm sure there's some folks that were curious about that, since we did not see them in the FCS playoffs since I believe year number 1. That was the last time that we see them in the playoffs in any capacity. So it was a surprise to see them with that high of a preseason ranking. But right now they're playing up to that standard. They're doing a really good job. But Rice still going to have a little bit of fight in them, as we see Rice's first points of the season. They do a 74-yard touchdown run, takes it all the way down the sideline, and they will go for the 2-point conversion. That is not good, but they at least got that goose egg off the scoreboard. 18-point game, as Rice slowly but surely trying to creep back into this ball game. Ensuing punt. We'll see some special teams come to life here, as that's going to be taken all the way into the end zone. And Rice, they're back in this game. We'll see if Justin Jones has another gear as he looks to attack downfield. He's going to throw this one up for his receiver, and it is going to be caught. Touchdown, Jaguars. And Justin Jones doing a beautiful job selling that play action. A 31-13 game, as now Warren Johnson, he's going to be forced to throw this football. Warren Mason, nowhere to go with it. He's a very good runner, but this is not really the type of game flow that will be conducive for running the football. And as a left-handed quarterback making his first collegiate start as well, this is not where you want to be. But Mason's going to try to throw one up here on 3rd down, and it's going to, looks like, be taken to the end zone unless someone can catch him from behind. We will see that at the very last second, but Charlie Moore with another big-time interception with 3:44 left to play in this game. Trying to get it out to the tight end, and that's just simply not going to work in any facet possible. So now Southern back taking over as Jones looks to punch it back in once again. He's going to line up in the shotgun. He's going to drop back, roll to his right, throws it up into the end zone, and it's going to be incomplete. He's been playing really well in this game, but this time around, there was a lot of traffic back there to work with. And so they'll run it back. 2nd and goal. They've been really successful in the red zone. This time, they go to their tailback, who's able to set up some blocks, fights his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Southern. And the Jaguars, they are going to make this lead even bigger as Carlos Page, he's going to page that scoreboard, tell him to put some updates up. And Southern, they look like a top 10 team. What is there to be said? Great collegiate debut for Justin Jones at that quarterback position, making his first start. Definitely showed that, hey, he's meant to be a collegiate quarterback who could, show some NFL potential depending on how well the rest of this season does end up progressing. But as of right now, just a great win for the Southern football team as they get to 1-0. So we'll go ahead and take some time now to check out some other top 25 teams in the country. We got South Carolina State going on the road and taking on Alabama A&M. Now, Alabama A&M, they might be a team that could very well be on the rise. They, did get some key transfers in the transfer portal this past offseason. And while we won't see them this season, they do got some guys like Chris Palmer who transferred in from Georgia Southern. So definitely adding some veteran presence. Alabama A&M will be a team to watch in the future. But as of right now, Alabama A&M, they are actually going to get a fumble on the ground as South Carolina State, they tried to run a little bit of a wide receiver option, little trickulation, and that might have not worked out very well as South Carolina State coming out the gate just not looking all that impressive. It's very fortunate that they are still in this game. It could easily have been 14-0 given the field position they had to work with specifically. But that being said, South Carolina State, they will eventually go ahead and take the lead, as we'll see Carlos McDougal throw one up into the air, one-on-one coverage, and that will go for a completed touchdown. And so we'll see if McDougal can throw a second one up into the air. It's going to get caught, and it's going to be a huge gain once again, as McDougal looking to attack that secondary. Alabama A&M, they still got some holes in that defense, even though they had attacked that transfer portal really well. Really, the biggest winners of the transfer portal this past offseason. But now we're on the field where games are not played on paper. In South Carolina State, they were driving down the field. Alabama A&M, once again, they're going to get themselves yet another fumble. It will end up being recovered, and that's the third turnover that they're able to force. Can they get something from their offense, though? Nick Pruitt, he's going to throw one up into the air. It's going to be caught, and it's going to be taken into the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama A&M. And this Bulldog squad from Sweet Home, Alabama, they are going to take the lead. All of their points coming off of turnovers, but hey, man, you just got to come out there. You got to play yourself some complimentary football, and that is exactly what we are seeing right now. As Alabama A&M, they will retake the lead. We'll see if that holds up with less than a minute left to play in the first half. But watch out, as McDougal, he is starting to find a rhythm in this ball game. 1st and 10 from the 47. McDougal lining up under center. He's going to drop back the pass. Got some time. Looks to the right-hand side, and it's going to be caught. Another completion for Carlos not Montoya. Montoya's out in the NFL. McDougal, really missing Montoya already. As we see this South Carolina State trying to finish with points. McDougal looking towards the end zone. Throws it up, and it's going to be caught. Touchdown, South Carolina State. And we got ourselves a tied football game all of a sudden. Safety was just looking too much into the backfield and just allowed that guy to get past him. But before we do go into the halftime, we're going to see what special teams trickulation comes down as Alabama A&M tries to run it out, gets a solid return, except there's going to be a fumble on the play. And South Carolina State, they will end up recovering, but they don't do anything with that fumble. It was a dodge bullet there. As now we jump into the second half of action, as McDougal just picking up right where he left off, now with 200 yards of passing in this game, as he dumps it off to Ramirez, who will pick up the first down. And now in Alabama A&M territory again, McDougal throwing once more, gets it to the right-hand side and throws it right in between a couple of defenders. And he throws that right where it needs to be. McDougal's looking pretty good here since the first quarter. And eventually South Carolina State, they will, use those long pass plays to set up yet another touchdown. And South Carolina State, they will not go for two. So it does remain a one-possession game, but we're talking about just an 8-point difference. A difference that could only take one play to make. Pruitt looking to play a little bit of hero ball, but he's going to get sacked. It looks like it's none other than Reggie Bush, one of the best players in all of FCS college football, making a big-time play on the road as well. Just gets right around that offensive lineman, and South Carolina State, they are going to hang on, and they are going to win this football game. It was not by any means a pretty game. South Carolina State, they are known for this. They're not known necessarily for winning pretty, but they are a solid football program. This is a team that has seen FCS playoff football in the past. They got a pretty good defense as well. They're going to need to work on some things offensively, though. Definitely not the perfect game by any means, but sometimes it's all about just winning that football game. 1-0, it looks the same whether you dominate somebody or whether you squeak past somebody. But give Alabama A&M a lot of credit, though. They hung around and made this a competitive football game. That's not an easy thing to do. Easy to see blowouts this early in the season. So the last game that I wanted to check out before we get our first score update of this episode, the top 25 matchup here once again. Akron going on the road, taking on the number 16 ranked Youngstown State Penguins, who, even though they have not made it to the FCS playoffs in this series yet, they're getting a lot of love, but they're going to have to find a way to stop that receiver right there. Mark Subar, who comes in, 12 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown in their upset victory over FBS Auburn. This is going to be a challenging game for the Youngstown State Penguins. They're going to have to bring it, and it's going to be a lot of Osiah Jackson Jr. today as well. If Youngstown State is going to be able to pull off this upset here today. He is making his first collegiate start as well at the quarterback position, and we'll see what he can do in his first drive. Jackson looks towards the end zone, throws it up, but it's going to be deflected away, and it's going to be intercepted. So Akron gets the stand that they are looking for, and you don't want that as a quarterback. Looks like he was trying to go to that corner route. It was open, but I don't know what happened. His receiver had to come back for the football, but look who comes back and responds. So Youngstown State, they're also going to get an interception as well. That is Steve Spurlock that is going to be able to make a play on the football, as that will give Youngstown State prime field position to work with. They're going to start things inside the red zone. We'll see if they can actually come away with points this time around, and they do end up getting a field goal, which is better than nothing at the very least. They will end up getting a lead, but it looks like it might not last too terribly much longer, as there it was, Mike Subar able to make a play on the football when it known to the Youngstown State faithful that, hey, I am certainly him. It's not like he even did anything too crazy. All he did was ran a go route and ran right past that safety. So it makes it 1st and goal from the 4-yard line, and Subar is going to take care of the rest. That will be the first touchdown that we see here in this top 25 matchup between these two teams from Northeastern Ohio. And it's a close game early. Later on, we jump into later in the second quarter as we see Steve Spurlock dropping back the pass. He's going to throw one right over the right-hand side in double coverage. And while Youngstown State was able to get some pressure, not enough for Steve Spurlock to throw an inaccurate football. And now in scoring range again, Spurlock, we're going to keep it that way, but he's going to take a key sack. That might take him out of field goal range. FCS is not necessarily known for having some very elite kickers. We'll see if they decide to do, and they are actually going to go for it here on 4th down. You got to pick up 18 yards, throws it up, and it's going to be caught. You have to be joking me, man. Look at this. 4th and 18, and you give up the first down? That is absolutely wild. And it looks like Akron keying in on a touchdown, and Akron is going to punch it in once again as we see the Akron Zips extend their lead in a glorified battle of Northeastern Ohio. So now Jackson Jr.'s got to keep himself on schedule here. He's going to face some pressure, has to get rid of the football. It does end up being caught, and it's going to go all the way into the end zone. Touchdown, Penguins. Osiah Jackson Jr. Look at this. Took some pressure, even took a shot. And how about the toughness he has in the pocket? Able to keep with it. So now, just a 4-point game. We'll see if they can keep Akron off the scoreboard before halftime. But it looks like that will not be the case. And Steve Spurlock is able to lead his troops down the field one last time. And that's now going to make it 21-10 after this extra point. But look at this throw, though, by Steve Spurlock. This is a very well-timed throw. Got it right before the safety could get there. And just not seeing that same timing over on the Youngstown State bench going into the second half. We will end up seeing Osiah Jackson Jr.'s second interception of this game, and a key one at that. I mean, Youngstown State, they got the ball to start this second half. They don't do anything with it, and now Akron with a chance to possibly run away with it here, as now Spurlock dropping back. He's going to throw to the right-hand side, but it's going to be intercepted. The Penguin defense is going to go ahead and hold itself up, and you absolutely love to see a big-time interception. And that does keep him out in the end zone for now, but Youngstown State, they cannot capitalize. They had to punt the football away, but then, you know, I didn't realize we were in a Drake song because all of a sudden, we got a back-to-back. We see this time Steve Spurlock trying to throw it downfield once again. It does end up being intercepted. So, 2 consecutive turnovers that, again, Youngstown State cannot necessarily take advantage of. And it's now an 11-point game with less than 3.5 minutes left to play. Spurlock, again, throwing to the left-hand side, gets it out to Subar. And that is a dangerous proposition, but ironically, that's his first catch of the entire game. His damage hasn't been in the passing game. It's been in that running game. They will get him the football in as many ways as possible. That time, they get him in a more conventional way. A 45-yard reception that allow Akron to go ahead and run some time off this clock. As we'll go ahead and see Steve Spurlock. He's going to hand it off, gets it, cuts it back to the outside, and Akron is going to get themselves yet another touchdown on the board. That makes it 28-10 in favor of the Akron Zips, and that will also end up being your final score as well. So Akron with a very convincing win in top 25 action here, as they will go on the road, going across town to the city of Youngstown, Ohio, and win this one by 18 points. So that should look good for the AP pollsters. And it'll be really interesting to see how Youngstown State is at for when the next AP poll does end up coming out. Simply because, you know, they did play against a top 10 team, but they necessarily did not look very good in this initial matchup here in year 4. So this takes us into our very first studio update of the season. And we start with number 15 Temple, opening up their season against Southeastern Louisiana. And Temple does win their opener 49-24, starting off season number 4 on a high note. But we jump back into FCS football action, as we will go ahead and now see Delaware State go on the road to take on the number 25 ranked Sam Houston State Bearcats, more officially known as those Cardiac Cats. We'll see if that holds up throughout the course of year number 4 like it did back in year number 3, as they are led by their sophomore quarterback, David Bullock. Now, this is their opening weekend, while Delaware State, we did see them in the last episode take on FBS Penn State, and they were actually somewhat competitive with the Penn State Nittany Lions. We'll see if they can use that as momentum to pull off this upset here. And right now, actually looking pretty solid, all things considered. Victor Reyes, he's going to get a big throw early on, and we'll see him try to take another shot downfield, and he's going to get it. Touchdown, Delaware State, and the Hornets will end up striking first. A 54-yard touchdown pass here midway through that first quarter, and Delaware State will take a 7-0 lead early on in this football game. As we'll go ahead and see now what Sam Houston State's response is on defense, as they will go with the ground game, but Sam Houston State's able to get a fumble, and it's going to be recovered by the Cardiac Cats. And that is how you create some momentum on a defensive side of the football. Absolutely lining them up like a Christmas tree there. We'll see if Sam Houston State can finally get on the board. Moving out to his left-hand side, it's Bullock. He gets it out to the flat, and it nearly gets it into the end zone. Was very close. They are going to mark him shy at about the 3-yard line. But look at this. Long was all by himself, and just not good defensive discipline there. sticking with those assignments. So now, going to go ahead and run the football. It is going to be Williams that will ultimately run it into the end zone. And Sam Houston State will tie this game up at 7 apiece before we go ahead and see Delaware State punt the football once again back in the hands of those Cardiac Cats. Using that special team prowess, he's going to prow his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Bearcats. 14-7 now going to be your score. And we're really starting to see Sam Houston State start to really sink in, as we will actually see David Bullock take a massive shot there. Looks like that was deflected not only at the line of scrimmage, but then Bullock also took a massive shot there. He will remain in the game and lead that touchdown drive as well. That's going to be just a 4-yard scamper, but those 6 points, they are going to be looking the exact same regardless. That is another touchdown for the Bearcats, as it's now a 21-7 game as they go back to that running game. They had a lot of success with it so far in this game, and it keeps on going. Another touchdown for Sam Houston State, as that man was going to be gone like a girl in the country song. I mean, look at him. Williams, no one catching him. He easily was able to ease up on that gas pedal at least just a little bit. And Victor Reyes at this point really struggling to keep his team in the game. He's going to throw this interception, and he's going to get them 6 points on the board, except it's going to go to the other team. 35-7 after 3 quarters of action all of a sudden, and just exactly the opposite of what they did against Penn State to keep themselves in this football game. Turnovers becoming a major issue here, as we'll go into the fourth quarter. Still a 35-7 game, as we'll see a play action here. Backup quarterback is in the game. It's Simon, throws it up to the right-hand side, and Mario Simon able to drop it right in the bucket. That is going to go to, looks like, about the red zone. They will get another red zone opportunity, which features a fullback, little fullback U action here. You love to see that not the expert action happening here, especially, at the collegiate football level, as the fullback is a dying position. But that being said, Sam Houston State, they look great in their opening matchup. They take care of business against Delaware State. They're going to win huge in this one to start the year. But we'll see if that can be the same for Montana, who not only starts the season in the AP Top 25, but they got some big-time players in the recruiting class this past offseason. So, we're going to maybe see a little bit of that top 5 freshman class come into action. But this team is still led by their junior running back, Brian Hurst, one of the best running backs in the Big Sky Conference. He's going to be big if Montana is going to get back into the FCS playoffs. But first, we'll check in on Samford as they do get the football first. As Ashton Hines, he's going to actually face a significant amount of pressure early. And that is going to be Aaron Freeman, who is going to get the interception and gets a decent little return as well. You love to see that. So now we'll see what Montana can do off the interception. And they will start true freshman, one of your guys' customs as well, Jamison Skinner. And really just following the confines of the design playbook. Saw Brian Hurst all but naked open, all by himself as well. That was Jabari Thomas that did eventually get the tackle out of bounds. But then we'll see Jamison Skinner throw one up, and it is going to be caught. Touchdown, Montana. And we see Jamison Skinner showing that he is him. Also making his collegiate debut, by the way. He gives his team an early 7-0 lead. But one thing that is for sure, they are going to have to ride Ashton Hines in this game, because just looking at Asante Randolph Jr., he's going to not have a lot of running room. But who will have some running room on the outside? It's Ashton Hines, who's able to get it all the way across the 30-yard line. That was a nice job faking the handoff to Asante Randolph. And they're going to need a lot of that in this game. Later on in the drive, though, Hines looks over to the left-hand side. He's going to throw it up, and it's going to be caught down the sideline. Anyone going to be able to catch him? No, sir. And that will be a touchdown for the Samford Bulldogs, as Samford is going to tie it up. We got ourselves a tie ball game all of a sudden. We're going to have a very fun one for sure. As now Jamison Skinner will take back over here, looking over to the right-hand side. He will throw it up into the air. He's got a nice spiral to it, but it's going to be intercepted too. That does end up being picked off. So earlier we saw Jamison Skinner with his first career passing touchdown. Now we're going to see his first career passing interception, as he did have that one-on-one coverage. But this guy just didn't end up winning it, unfortunately. So Samford does take over at that rough spot. They will eventually get a field goal out of it, which does give Samford the lead as they go back to Brian Hurst, who puts the football on the ground. There is a scramble for it, and it's going to be recovered. Samford gets its hands on the football. And now, if you're the Bulldogs, man, you got to come out and get some points on this drive. Ashton looking to the right-hand side. He's going to get sacked. Let's go ahead and check to see who ended up getting that sack. Could have been, looks like it might have been 56. That's one of the linebackers on Montana's squad. But in spite of all that, Ashton Hines is still able to lead his troops down the football field, and that is going to be a 2-possession game. Later on, Montana, they go 3 and out. So here's Ashton Hines back on the field once again. He's going to take it down the sideline. He said, "Get away from my lemonade." And Ashton Hines is going to make it a 61-yard touchdown run. That's going to have to be the play of the week. I mean, this was originally supposed to be a passing play, but instead just keeps it on the ground himself. Yeah, hate to see it, though. That is definitely embarrassing to see. And Samford's going to take a 24-7 lead. Definitely got some work to do if they want to get back into this football game. And we might see a little something here, as Jabari Thomas, the true sophomore who did end up giving up that passing play in the first place, he's going to make that saving tackle. And Montana inside the 10-yard line, dropping back. He's going to look over the middle of the field, and it's going to be caught. Touchdown, Montana. As that is Jamison Skinner threading the needle to trying to get his team back in the game. But can his defense make a stop? They can. They're going to get the interception, taking it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown, Montana. And in a blink of an eye, Montana is going to make this just a field goal game. They are going to be right back into it. So how does Ashton Hines respond? He's going to go right back into the air, throws it over to the left-hand side, and it's going to end up being caught. Huge game there for Ashton Hines. He's now sitting at over 300 yards of total offense. We still have a half of football left to play. We'll see if he puts the ball in his hands. Hines back in the end zone. It's going to be incomplete. Safety looking in the back of the end zone and deflects it away at the last second. But they will still get another first down. Setting up 1st and goal inside the 2-yard line. It's going to be a quarterback keeper. And Ashton Hines finds his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Samford. 31-21 is going to be your score now. We'll see if they can hang on here in the second half. Hines under shotgun. He's got a 5-wide set. Throws it up. It's going to be caught. And it's going to be yet another big play downfield, as there might have been a slight miscommunication. Able to confuse those defenders just briefly enough to find some open space. And that drive will end up being finished up by Asante Randolph Jr., the sophomore running back. That gets it back to a 17-point game. So not a lot of hope here for the Montana Grizzlies, as he's going to throw it up, trying to make really something happen. But Jabari Thomas, the sophomore custom, he was all over it and that will end up being the end of this game. We will see Montana get upset here at home against this Samford team. Now, Samford has not made it to the FCS playoffs as of the recording of this video, but that being said, they could change it here in year number 4, and if they do so, this would be a perfect way to go about doing that. Big time win on the road. You're able to win by 17, and as long as they stay healthy, Ashton Hines, he certainly might be one of the best quarterbacks in this new look Big Ten. So as we progress through the afternoon, we also see more FCS scores around the league starting to trickle in. We start with the 1 o'clock slate, a huge one here as San Diego State playing host to Morgan State, who did pull that upset against Eastern Illinois in the last episode, but Lightning will not strike twice here as the Aztecs will win their home opener here in year number 4, 38-27. As for the Idaho Vandals, they will open up their season against Indiana State, who just got under NCAA sanctions. Idaho definitely in a different direction than the Sycamores, winning 35-21 to retain their status in the AP Top 25. As for SMU, they will also go on the road to start the season, and they pull it off to start the year. 38-14 going to be your score. Eastern Illinois quickly on a downward spiral as they fall to 0-2 here early in the year. Meanwhile, New Mexico State looks to get back into the top 25 after a loss against an FBS opponent, Nebraska. They do go on the road this week to play against the Charleston Cougars, and New Mexico State wins this one 48-17 in order to get their first win of the season. Also looking to make a bigger impact here in year number 4 is the Elon Phoenix, not to be confused with Elon Musk. The Phoenix win 48-14 as they dominate South Dakota on the road. But as we start to see the sun set here on this week 2 action, we now check in on a couple of teams that typically do not get a lot of love. We got North Dakota. They are opening their season up in the fields of Northern Iowa, where we go into the Northern Iowa Dome to check out this Northern Iowa football team, who we actually have not seen in gameplay since year number 1 when they hosted here and they took down Bethune-Cookman here at home in actually pretty blowout fashion, to be honest with you guys, as we'll actually jump into last few seconds of this first half, because to be honest with you guys, there was not a lot going on in this first half of action, but this is a members chosen game, so if that's something that you're interested in, picking future games of this Dynasty, definitely make sure to check that out. But North Dakota puts the football on the ground, so they had a really good chance to put points on the board before we went into the halftime locker room, but that's simply not going to happen. We are not going to see that here whatsoever. And with 39 seconds left now, Northern Iowa with a chance. He takes it out into the open. It's Barnes. And we got ourselves a barn burner out on the football field. And he is going to strut his stuff, high stepping his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Northern Iowa. And that will make it a 10-0 lead before we go into that halftime locker room. I mean, look at Barnes on this run. He was moving like a pinball machine, and no one was able to take him down. So 10-0 lead for Northern Iowa as the Panthers are looking pretty strong on the defensive side of the football, and that will continue well into that second half as well, as we will end up seeing a fumble recovery on our hands as the former Grambling State transfer Chris Tompkins, who ends up getting stripped from behind, setting up great field position once again for this Northern Iowa football team. But Barnes puts it on the ground as well, and that's going to be recovered back by the North Dakota Fighting Hawks. As Barnes, he was going to put his guys in a goal line situation. It was going to be 1st and goal, and yet we don't get that, unfortunately. You absolutely hate to see it. So, North Dakota, they don't score off that, at least not yet anyways. It's still a 13-0 game, but we get into the last few minutes of this game, and things get a little bit on the wild side here, right? We go into a third down conversion. Tompkins throwing out of its end zone, but it's going to be intercepted, and it's going to be one of your guys' customs, the sophomore, Michael Rose, who's going to run his way into the end zone, and it's going to be a pick 6 against the Grambling State transfer. We might be getting the fat lady to sing on this ball game here, man. 20-0. Going to be your score. But one last gas with 30 seconds left to play. They are not going to give up without a fight, as North Dakota, they want to get that goose egg off the scoreboard. I'm sure that would be really nice to have, considering they're technically not playing a power conference opponent here in this FCS conference in the early going. So, North Dakota, they got to get, they're probably not going to win this game, but if they want to have any chance of making it to the playoffs this year, they got to be, getting these non-conference wins in the bag. And while they're ultimately not going to end up winning this game, they're going to end up getting a little bit of a confidence booster, something to feel good about when they check the film on Monday, I suppose. But Northern Iowa, they're still going to win this game. A good win for them to start the year. This is a solid football program. They now extend that winning streak out to 5 consecutive wins. So, Northern Iowa, they could also very well be a sleeper in terms of teams to watch out for when we're talking about teams that have not made the playoffs yet here in this series, but could very well make their very first FCS playoff appearance here in year number 4. So with the last game of this episode, we now jump in to watch the number 6 team in all of college football. We got Southeast Missouri State. They will go on the road, going to our nation's capital, by the way, and they will take on the Howard Bison. And they got one of the best defensive linemen in FCS football, Marcus Gray. He is an intimidating figure, part of a very strong Southeast Missouri State defense, one of the best that we saw back in year number 3, and it's going to live up to that, as we're going to see a man run it into the end zone. Touchdown, Southeast Missouri State. And that was Marcus Gray that I was talking about in that preview, already making a little bit of an impact. He's going to scoop this football up, and he's going to run it into the end zone as well. And that's going to be an instant touchdown here for Southeast Missouri State. Very characteristic of them, as we'll go ahead and see Bam Bam Hendricks lay to lumber, force that incompletion. And they are just getting after it early, as that is Joseph Lyselik going to get the sack here on 3rd and long. But Howard's going to go for it here on this 4th down. They want to get some momentum early. Saturday, one of your customs, going to try to throw it up, but it's going to be intercepted by Bam Bam Hendricks. And then there's certainly a bang bang moment. Saturday, trying to make a play. It's 4th down. You got to get something to go. And Bam Bam Hendricks simply not letting that happen. But the big question for Southeast Missouri State is, can they have more consistency on offense this season? And that is not exactly the hopeful sign that you were looking for, as we do end up seeing a fumble on the ground. In Southeast Missouri State, they are going to recover it, as we will see Tyler Johnson throw it to the right-hand side. He's going to throw an interception as well. So Howard, they're making some plays of their own on the defensive side of the football there, as Tyler Johnson now has a couple of mistakes here in this football game to start the season. So for one half of football, we still have ourselves a pretty competitive game. We'll see if that still remains throughout the second half, as we will go ahead and see Lonnie Scott take the kick return. And when you're struggling on offense and you gotta play that complimentary football, and that is exactly what we are going to see here. That is going to be a touchdown for Southeast Missouri State. That's going to be taken all the way back to the crib. 14-3 now becoming your score, but then we see some more special teams action. Lonnie Scott is going to strike a second time. That's going to be yet another score for the Red Hawks. That now makes it 21-3. And this could possibly mean that the route is going to be on. And that's even with the fact that this offense at Southeast Missouri State, they only have 70 yards of total offense. Tyler looking over the middle. He's going to throw one over. And that's going to be yet another touchdown for the Red Hawks, as it is going quickly from 0 to 100, making it 28-3. And you're probably thinking about, well, 28-3, we all know that meme. Howard's got him right where they want him. That's not necessarily going to be the case. Tyler Johnson throws one right in the bucket. So, listen, it really was close in that first half. It was a really competitive game that we did end up seeing here to start year number 4. But it is not going to be close at the end of the day. Southeast Missouri State, they end up running away with this game. They win by a final score of 42-3. It ends up being a blowout. And if Southeast Missouri State, if they can, get that consistency on the offensive side of football, watch out for these guys. They certainly have a defense that is more than capable of winning a national championship. Alright, boys, so we are back here with this newest Sports Illustrated magazine. After all of the Week 2 action came to a head, and look at Samford getting on that Sports Illustrated magazine after pulling off the shocking upset in Montana. So let's see what kind of role that plays in these top 25 polls now, as we go ahead and see how those are looking at the moment. And we don't see a lot of change in the upper echelons of the AP top 25. Literally the first 10 to 15 teams, it seems like they all stay in place. Kent State, Eastern Kentucky, Sacramento State, top 13 does end up remaining the same. But then we start seeing some changes in the lower half of the AP top 25. Temple ends up moving one spot to 14. SMU, off of a 24-point win off for Eastern Illinois, they move up 4 spots to number 15 in the country. Idaho's up 4 spots as well. They're up to number 16. They had a 2-score win over Indiana State. South Carolina State, they won by 8 points against Alabama A&M and move up by 4. Utah State moves up by 4 after a close game against UNLV. Then we had Eastern Michigan on a bye. They still move up 4. Youngstown State moves down 4 after their 18-point loss to Akron in their season opener. They're going to have some things to do, as will Rice. We'll have some things they'll need to work on as well. They lost big against Southern, got dominated the whole game. And then the last few spots go to Portland State at 22. Sam Houston State at number 23 after a huge win against Delaware State. Central Michigan is the only new team in the AP top 25. They come in at number 24 after a 6-point win against Florida International. And the last team is Montana, who fell 8 spots. They had the biggest drop in the AP top 25. They're still hanging around, but Samford, where is Samford? Are they receiving votes? And they are. Samford is receiving votes along with Northwestern State, Tennessee Martin, and the Citadel as well here in the early going of this season. Weber State was the only team that dropped out of the top 25. As for the Heisman watch, we have not seen too much motion as of right now. We still see Ikeda Woods at the top, along with David Forn, the junior wide receiver, who neither did end up playing last week. That being said, Joey Ward did end up playing a little bit. He does not have a lot of stats. 5 for 10, 67 yards. So that's how maybe he's hurt. Don't know what's going on with him specifically, but hopefully he's okay, or maybe they just haven't passed the football very much. It'll be interesting to see how that story unfolds. But 2 people did move into the Heisman watch for the very first time this season. We have sophomore running back Zach Howe, who had a huge debut against Brown. 12 carries for 196 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was a massive engine in their opening win on the road against the Brown Bears. Not to mention the junior wide receiver Markeith Smith out of Southeast Missouri State. in their opener on the road against the Howard Bison in our nation's capital. He ends up with 6 catches, 159 yards, and 3 touchdowns in their game. So then that leads us to our players of the week. And on the offensive side of the ball, we got a little bit of a surprise. We saw some great performances between Zach Howe and Markeith Smith. But I'm going to give the offensive player of the week to Tennessee Tech quarterback Chase Jones, the junior, who went and played up against Northern Colorado in their season opener, and he was electric. 400 yards through the air, 96 yards on the ground. He had 5 total touchdowns in this game. Chase Jones, a huge reason why Tennessee Tech is off to a great start in year number 4. Meanwhile, New Hampshire dominated the Brown Bears after the first quarter, and a huge reason for that is because of their junior linebacker, Tavita Bean, who only had a few tackles in the game, but 2 of them were tackles behind the line of scrimmage. Both of those were sacks as well, not to mention he ended up with a couple of defensive touchdowns. This was a really dominant performance. This was a great performance for Tavita Bean here in their opening game of the season. So we will march on through year number 4 of the FCS Dynasty as I'll wrap up today's episode, capping week number 2 action here on the series. Next episode, we will have week 3 action, and we got 8 more games on tap that are going to be exciting. They're going to be thrilling experiences. So buckle up. We're going to be in for another great season of college football. And if you're excited for it as well, and top of enjoying today's content, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. This is John J. Gaming on the mic, signing off, hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.